This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
Very good morning. You're watching News 9. I'm Karthik Malhotra. The big story that we're bringing for you today, even as the validity of his Trump tariffs get evaluated by the US Supreme Court, Donald Trump says that trade talks with India are going well. He also hints at visiting India potentially next year. That's the big update for you this morning. Also on the show, Pine Labs IPO opens amid the large IPO frenzy, especially of startups here in India. Rohit Srivastava will be here to tell you whether this is an IPO that you as a retail investor should invest in. You're watching Morning Brief at 9. This is Morning Brief at 9. First up, let's bring you all the headlines. US President Donald Trump says talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi going very well, confirms plan to visit India amid ongoing trade discussions. Trump also says he may pursue alternative measures if the US Supreme Court rules against his sweeping global trade levies. Is evaluating whether the emergency powers used by Donald Trump are effective in implementing those tariffs. Meanwhile, staying with other news from the United States, Trump labels New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani a communist yet again, questions his leadership on infrastructure and defends ongoing immigration raids as essential to law and order. The US government also orders sweeping flight reductions across 40 airports from New York to Atlanta due to payment issues at ATC staff as the historic 37-day government shutdown grinds on. America's first female House Speaker Nancy Pelolsi announces her retirement, closing a 40-year chapter that reshaped US politics and democratic leadership in the country. On to stories from India. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says US trade agreement talks in full force. Parallel negotiators with EU also underway. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal says India-New Zealand free trade talks progressing fast. Hopes agreement will be finalized soon amid growing bilateral cooperation. In corporate news, the Enforcement Director summons Reliance Group Chairman Anil Ambani on November 14th for second round of questioning in the 40,000 crore rupee bank loan fraud and money laundering case involving Reliance Communications. Delhi's air quality plunges to very poor category as smog blankets city. Noida AQI spikes to 756.
एसोसिएट स्पॉन्सर बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा के संग त्योहार की उमंग.
Our top story this morning, US President Donald Trump has confirmed plans to visit India, saying the talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi are, to quote him, going very well, unquote. Now, speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Trump praised Prime Minister Modi as a great friend and hinted at growing alignment between Washington and New Delhi, particularly on energy imports. He claimed India had largely stopped buying oil from Russia in line with his administration's pressure campaign against nations purchasing Russian energy. Trump added that Prime Minister Modi has invited him to visit India, and when asked if the trip could happen next year, the president replied it could be yes. Listen in.
How are the talks with Prime Minister Modi
Great,
going on a
great.
trade deal? And when
Going good. He largely stopped buying oil from Russia. Say it.
How is the talks with Prime Minister Modi
Great,
going on a
it's great.
trade deal? And when do
Going good. He largely stopped buying oil from Russia.
When do you plan?
And he's a
on-
friend of mine, and we speak, and he wants me to go there, and we'll figure that out. I'll go. I had a great trip there with Prime Minister Modi. He's a great man. and I'll be going. Yeah.
Novo Nordisk is in the middle
You're
of a
planning to
10.
go to India next
Go
year?
ahead, please.
You're planning to go to India next year, sir?
It could be, yeah.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump on Thursday said he would consider other options if the Supreme Court of the United States rules against his administration on the legality of his sweeping global tariffs. Now, Trump's remarks come a day after tough questioning from the justices raised doubts about whether Trump had the authority to impose tariffs under the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a law that allows the president to regulate imports during national emergencies but does not explicitly mention tariffs.
I hope we're going to win that case. I think it's one of the most important cases in the history of our country. So much evolves around tariffs as a defensive mechanism for our country, as national security for our countries. We were able to make phenomenal deals. If we didn't have the tariffs, we wouldn't have been able to do that. So we thought we did very well yesterday. We hope that we did. I think it would be devastating for our country, but I also think that we'll have to develop a Game 2 plan. We'll see what happens.
Staying with more stories from the US President, Donald Trump also renewed his attacks on New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, calling him a communist one more time and questioning how his policies would affect the city's infrastructure. Speaking to reporters, Trump quipped that under Mamdani there wouldn't be much progress. Trump also defended ongoing immigration raids, saying they target criminals to maintain law and order.
Well, I think you have to look. If he is a communist, you know there's not going to be a lot of activity. So you wouldn't need bridges and tunnels and all the different things that were being planned for New York, I think. And look, I hope New York does well. That's all I can say. I love New York. I grew up in New York. I did well in New York, always did well. And I hope New York does well. That's all. But they have killers in New York. We want to get them out. If they have murderers, if they have people from jails that they allowed out of their jails in order to save a lot of money, we want them out of here. We want to put them back in their jails, not our jails.
Meanwhile, U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has announced a 10% reduction in flights across 40 major U.S. airports, citing air traffic safety risks as the government shutdown entered its 37th day on Thursday, the longest in U.S. history. The cuts are expected to impact major hubs including New York, Chicago and Atlanta, potentially disrupting both domestic and international travel. Take a look.
U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said on Wednesday that he would order a 10% cut in flights at 40 major airports. That's as the government shutdown hits its 36th day, making it the longest in U.S. history.
There'll be frustration. We are working with the airlines. They're going to work with passengers. But in the end, our sole role is to make sure that we keep this airspace as safe as possible.
While Duffy did not name the 40 affected airports, the cuts are expected to hit the 30 busiest airports in the U.S. The drastic plan sent airlines scrambling to make significant reductions in flights in just 36 hours. Duffy said the cuts could be reversed if Democrats agreed to reopen the government. The Trump administration has looked to ramp up pressure on Democrats to end the shutdown, using flight disruptions to try and force them to vote to reopen the government. Democrats contend Republicans are to blame for refusing to negotiate over key healthcare subsidies. The shutdown has forced 13,000 air traffic controllers and 50,000 Transportation Security Administration agents to work without pay. This has worsened staffing shortages, caused widespread flight delays, and extended lines at airport security screening. Here's the Federal Aviation Administration's Brian Bedford.
We have decided that a 10% reduction in scheduled capacity would be appropriate to, again, continue to take the pressure off of our controllers.
Aviation analytics firm Cerium says this would reduce as many as 1,800 flights and over 268,000 airline seats. The FAA warned that it could add more flight restrictions after Friday if further air traffic issues emerge. United Airlines said its long-haul international flying and hub-to-hub flying will not be impacted, with the cuts targeting regional flying and non-hub domestic routes instead. American Airlines echoed a similar sentiment. Southwest, the largest domestic carrier, said it is evaluating how the cuts will affect its schedule. Airlines have repeatedly urged an end to the shutdown, citing aviation safety risks. Shares of major airlines, including United and American, falling about 1% in extended trading.
All right, and pivoting to India now, but staying with the U.S. context, India's talks with the United States for the trade agreement are moving ahead quickly. Finance Minister Narendra Sitaraman said this on Thursday, and also said that negotiations are in full force. Speaking at an event, Sitaraman said India will wait for the outcome of these ongoing talks, stressing that both sides are actively engaged to reach a conclusion soon. She also highlighted that discussions aren't limited to Washington. India is simultaneously negotiating with the European Union to finalize a separate trade deal. Sitaraman reaffirmed the government's commitment, saying there are no second thoughts on moving forward and that the Commerce Ministry is seriously engaged in talks with both the US as well as the European Union. Meanwhile, the Finance Minister has also called for creating big world-class banks in India, saying discussions are underway with the Reserve Bank of India and other lenders to explore how this can be achieved. Sitaraman urged banks to expand credit flow to industries and said strong demand boosted by the recent GST rate cuts could help kickstart a virtuous investment cycle. She emphasized that access to finance must be transparent and system-driven, adding that the government is examining ways to strengthen the banking ecosystem not just through mergers but by creating conditions for more banks to grow and compete globally. Highlighting the impact of futures and options on trades these days, the Finance Minister said that the government cannot restrain retailers from trading in F&O, but will definitely create awareness regarding the risks involved in putting money in such instruments. Meanwhile, India and New Zealand are moving closer to sealing a free trade agreement. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal, who's on a 4-day visit to Auckland, New Zealand, said talks are progressing fast and that the deal could be finalized very soon. Goyal said both sides are showing mutual respect and flexibility to close the remaining issues, adding that the agreement would open up new opportunities in agri-tech, science and innovation. New Zealand's Trade Minister Todd McLay said the pact could boost bilateral trade, which currently stands at just about $1.5 billion, and help businesses from both nations expand partnerships. Remember, officials from both countries are currently holding the 4th round of negotiations in Auckland, focusing on key areas like trade in goods, services, and rules of origin. On to corporate news now. Reliance Group Chairman Anil Ambani has once again been summoned by the Enforcement Directorate for questioning in connection with an alleged bank loan fraud and money laundering case. Officials say the 66-year-old businessman has been asked to appear before the agency on November 14th. Remember, this will be his second round of questioning after being grilled earlier in August this year. The case revolves around loans taken by Reliance Communications and its related entities between the years 2010 and 2012, which the Enforcement Directorate alleges were diverted to other companies violating lending norms. The agency says around 40,000 crore rupees in dues remain unpaid, with several banks having declared RCOM's accounts as fraudulent. It also alleges the funds were used to repay older loans. More news from the ED. The Enforcement Directorate has attached assets worth over 11 crore rupees belonging to former cricketers Suresh Raina and Shikhar Dhawan in connection with an alleged illegal betting platform case. According to reports, the assets include an immovable property owned by Dhawan valued at 4.5 crore rupees and mutual fund investments of Raina worth 6.64 crore rupees. The action comes under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act or PMLA, linked to the operations of the betting platform 1xBet, which is registered in Karakau. The ED alleges that both players knowingly promoted the platform through endorsement deals with foreign entities as part of its ongoing probe into the betting network's activities here in India. And moving on to the national capital now, Delhi is once again choking under poor air conditions. The air quality in the national capital has deteriorated back to the very poor category this morning. Thick smog blankets several parts of city early this morning, causing visibility to drop and adding to the woes of morning commuters. As per the Central Pollution Control Board, the AQI level in several key areas remain worrying. Public interest litigation demanding action to curb the rising air pollution has been filed in the Supreme Court. The petitioners have urged the court to declare a national public health emergency. The plea claims that the lungs of 2.2 million school children in Delhi have already suffered irreversible damage. AQI in Delhi NCR has also deteriorated as AQI in Noida has reached as high as 756 this morning. And fintech major Paytm is stepping into the world of AI-powered travel. The company on Thursday launched Paytm Check-in, an all-new app designed to make trip planning smarter and simpler. The AI-enabled travel app helps users plan entire journeys, from choosing destinations and creating personalized itineraries to manage bookings for flights, trains, buses, and even metro rides. Paytm CEO Vikas Jalan said the launch marks a major leap in AI-led travel, promising a world-class experience that makes booking simple, personal, as well as effortless. And on to some more news that came in this morning relating to the festive demand for automobiles. Well, of course, remember this came with the double benefit of GST reduction as well as sales discount during the festive season. The Federation of Auto Dealers Association of FADA has released the numbers today, evaluating this 42-day festive demand, and auto sales numbers look fairly promising as things stand right now. We've got Maruti Suzuki in the passenger vehicle segment commanding as much as 43% of the market share, Tata Motors at 13.5%, Mahindra and Mahindra at 12.2%, Hyundai at 11.7%, Toyota at 6.3%, Kia at 5.9%, while all other players at a 7.4% market share as per the FADA report. Meanwhile, two-wheeler sales have risen faster than four-wheeler sales. Two-wheelers have risen almost 34% year-on-year, and rural sales have driven this two-wheeler demand surge. Meanwhile, car sales on a year-on-year basis are up just about 6.4%, and the rural sales again in this category have pipped the urban surge in car sales. Joining us this morning, we've got Mr. Sarharsh Damani, the CEO of FADA. Thank you so much, Mr. Damani. Just help us put this data in perspective. What do you make of this year-on-year growth in this 42-day window, which came right on the heels of the GST cuts as well as the festive season?
Yeah, thank you for having me on your show, and good morning to you and all the viewers of your channel. This has been an historic festive season for the auto retail in the Indian automobile segment. If you see, overall sales have grown 21% YOY compared to the last festive period. Two-wheelers have grown 22%, passenger vehicle has grown 23%, commercial vehicle 15%, and tractors 14%. All this growth, if you see, earlier there was a pent-up demand situation because of the lack of sales until 21st of September. But then that, as we call it, we are calling it a hurdle race. And pent-up demand has given the baton to festive season, where both the Dussehra, Dhanteras, Diwali were in the same month. And obviously the GST 2.0 reforms which have kicked in. And this has spiked up demand. This has brought in newer customers to the showroom, people who are sitting on the fence, or people who are not able to buy vehicles because of the GST rate reduction. For example, in passenger vehicle by 11%, 29% to 18%, and in two-wheelers from 28% to 18%. This has, brought automobiles under the reach of a common man. People who were not able to upgrade or people who were not able to buy, they are now coming into the showroom in full strength. And that's where the extra demand is coming in from. during this season.
All right, Mr. Damani, do you also have a cut on what kind of vehicles are being bought? Are passengers or are customers still going for the SUVs? Is the SUV craze still on? Because from the preliminary glance at the data, I saw that EV has still not sort of inched up beyond that 5-6% mark, and it's ICE vehicles which continue to dominate, which is about 95% of the market, even when it comes to new sales. But within those categories, are you seeing the momentum for SUVs continuing to grow, or do you think the sedans and the smaller hatchbacks are also as much in vogue?
So earlier, what used to happen is one segment used to pull up demand, the other segment used to have a break-even kind of sale, or a third segment used to decrease or degrow in terms of sale. But this festive, because of this reform which has come in, we are seeing all categories going full on. All cylinders firing for the auto retail segment, especially the two-wheelers and the passenger vehicle segment. SUVs continue to perform well, but the entry-level category, which was on a declining speed, that has also, now started performing well. We have started seeing upgrades coming in on all quarters. A person who was on a bicycle is now upgrading to a two-wheeler. A customer who was having a two-wheeler and wanted to upgrade to an entry-level category car is now also coming in. Some who was able to buy a mid-segment variant is now upgrading to a top segment variant. So all across the segments, we are seeing good growth coming in. But obviously, this is the new set of customers who couldn't afford vehicle. These are the new breed of customers what we are seeing both in the two-wheelers and in the car segment, and especially coming in from the rural market, where we saw 3x growth in the car segment versus the urban market, and 2x growth coming in the rural market in the two-wheeler segment.
All right, Mr. Damani, I also want to pick up this trend which is now, fairly visible over the last 18 to 24 months, and this comes by way of Tata Motors and Mahindra really racing ahead, and Hyundai Motor India is now the number 4 player, though the difference between Mahindra and Hyundai is not that significant, just about 1% or so. What are you making of this new trend of homegrown designs, homegrown models really going ahead and being in the fast lane when it comes to the adoption by customers at large?
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. Apart from this, also companies which are bringing in new launches into the system are bringing in products across different portfolio, different categories. They are performing far well compared to the other brands. And customers or OEMs who have reached, in the entry-level category have also performed exceptionally well. You can see that Maruti has done well, and so has Tata Motors. So this festive season has been, a story of reform, of a story of OEMs who are present in the entry-level category, in the small vehicle category. They have done well, and OEMs which are bringing in newer models are also doing well. So that's the entire story all about.
All right, Mr. Damani, we will leave it at that. Thank you so much for that report, and of course for joining us as soon as you release that report and put it out. But thank you so much for your time and putting all this in perspective for us. And with that, we will slip into another short break. But coming up on the other side, Rohit Srivastava will be here to tell us all about the mood of the Indian stock markets this morning. And also, the Pine Labs IPO opens today for subscription. Should that be on your buy list? We'll get you that and more on the other side of the break. You're watching Morning Brief at 9.
भारत सरकार ने सभी देशवासियों के हित में टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस से जीएसटी पूरी तरह से हटाकर जीरो कर दिया है। इससे टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस काफी सस्ता हो गया है। पॉलिसी बाजार पर अब 1 करोड़ का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 400 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
Moments come alive, even in everyday life. Every moment finds its place, and every day comes alive inside the aircross. What do you say, Kara?
I think mahi to throw in aircross and har moment ka boss.
Wow, say that again.
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
बार बिरला ओपस अश्योरेंस, 1 साल में पेंट को कुछ भी हुआ तो पेंटिंग वापस करके देंगे। रजिस्टर करो birlaopus.com पर।
अपनी सुपर पावर यूज करने का टाइम आ गया।
अब टेंशन मत लीजिए, IIFL फाइनेंस से झटपट गोल्ड लोन लीजिए और बिजनेस आगे बढ़ाइए।
लाइफ जब भी आगे बढ़ने का मौका दे, अपनी सुपर पावर, अपना गोल्ड यूज करिए और IIFL फाइनेंस से गोल्ड लोन लीजिए।
IIFL फाइनेंस करता है सीधी बात।
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Brief at 9. And if you thought that markets are in a consolidation mode, well, that story has become a little more sour this morning. In fact, Sensex and Nifty are both down about 0.75 of a percentage point. And the red on the charts is absolutely scary this morning. Let's pull up the Nifty 50 heat map and try and see pretty much every stock, every sector reeling under a lot of pain, a lot of pressure this morning. And look at the IT sector, for example. You've got TCS down about 1.5%. You've got HCL down about 2.15%, Wipro down about 1.35%. The bad news continues to sort of, spread across all sectors. Look at the auto sector. Despite healthy GST-related festive demand sales numbers and the kind of price correction that we've seen on account of profit booking, there's a massive sellout even in the auto space this morning, with Maruti Suzuki, Mahindra, Bajaj Auto, all stocks down in trade. Bharti Airtel is down about 3.5% or so. Meanwhile, even the FMCG stock, Hindustan Unilever, is down about 1.4% or so. Let's pull up the levels on Sensex and Nifty, and it seems that Sensex is now well below the 83,000 levels, and there you have it. Yeah, in fact, the Sensex is down to about 82,700 odd levels this morning. That's a massive decline of almost 600 odd points from yesterday's closing. And remember, the last few trading sessions, in any case, have been in the phase of consolidation. We haven't really seen too much green in the markets lately. Nifty 50, meanwhile, down below the 25,400 mark, also down, in fact, to 25,334 levels. Volatility, as you see in the markets, is up. It's up by about 2% or so. Massive pain coming even for the small cap stocks, down about 1.2% or so when it comes to the Nifty Small Cap 100 Index. Rohit Srivastav is joining us this morning to help us understand what's really going on. Why so much negativity in the mood of investors this morning, Rohit?
Well, a lot of today's movement, I think, will end up getting associated to what happened overnight in global markets, because they've pretty much gone up one way in the last month. And especially before the Fed meeting, and a lot of that is being given up. So that's, I think, causing some of the reaction. But the domestic market itself had neither participated much on the upside in line with a lot of Asia, and is appearing much weaker now, I think, mostly because the growth for the quarter has actually not turned out that great when we actually look at numbers. And in any case, that was not the expectation. I think people have been, expecting that this season, which is the festival season, will kick in numbers which will actually show up in the next quarter results. So for the time being, it was not looking so great. I think a lot of the correction that we are seeing is essentially a pullback to the rally that we've had in October. But what we did notice also in October is that the broad market, that is the mid and small caps, did not perform very, very well. It was mostly a large cap driven up move. And the mid and small caps actually falling very hard yesterday, and I think possibly could continue today. But having said that, we should be at the end of this pullback, because most of the levels that we were anticipating on the downside have been reached. We're also getting some short-term oversold signals right now. So I think we are at the fag end of this pullback and should be, quickly looking at a turnaround or recovery in the coming days. So that's what we need to prepare for. It's a good pullback, but it's an opportunity to really get invested for the next move to new highs.
Right. So do you think we've pretty much scratched the bottom, or do you think we can take more hits given what happens by way of policy in the United States? Simply because we haven't really seen the upsurge trickle back into the Indian market, but the downward momentum is actually flowing a lot more faster.
Yeah, I think it will happen. It's all an eventuality. We've been hearing a lot of positive stuff from both our side and the US side as far as the trade deal is concerned. We've already taken measures on the tax side. I think the only thing pending is to see some more interest rate cuts, which I think were due in the last meeting, but he didn't move ahead because he didn't think we had sufficient transmission. But I think rate cuts are more than overdue, and it's not going to be just a domestic event. Globally, interest rates are, especially from the US, are going to be cut into 2026. As Powell moves out and a new Fed chair comes in, the move is towards lower rates. Now, why is that important? Is that essentially ends up signaling a weak dollar. So even yesterday, as US equities were falling, we've actually seen the US dollar fall, and that environment is usually very good for emerging markets. So India essentially, if you look at in Asia, has been recently, at least in the last 4-5 months, worst performer within Asia because we are stuck with this deal announcement and slow growth, and we need that to get off the table for us to purely look at the growth aspect along with the rate cut. I think that would set the stage for a strong rally. And outperformance of emerging markets is the theme that's going to play from here into 2026.
All right. Hopefully that happens to be a promising theme to play. But for investors right now, you said that this could be perhaps a time to go and accumulate some of those quality stocks. So which are some of the sectors that you think are right now at a value where making some purchases on these dips would be fruitful for retail investors?
So in terms of value, I think the areas where we actually seeing growth has been the non-banking, financial stocks. They've actually shown good numbers over several quarters, and over time they became extremely undervalued because they were not performing. But 2025 they've been among the top performers, and I think on declines they should be looked at. There's also within private banks, I would look at the second line, not the big ones, not just the HDFC or Kotaks of the of the world, but the second line is where we're actually beginning to see performance, and these are these are banks that are trying to grow and are smaller, and if they start showing price performance and growth, the combination is pretty good to see good returns there. So that's another place to really look at because it's pretty much been ignored, and they've lagged behind the market for quite some time. So that means financials broadly is what I'm saying is one of the comeback sectors of this year. Where we would focus. The other one is metals. My metals were great performers in 21-22. They've also done well this year in terms of hitting new highs. We saw a very sharp pullback yesterday in the metal space. But what I mentioned earlier in terms of lower rates and a weak dollar, both of them really fuel metal stocks. For example, few would be aware that aluminium prices are actually hitting a multi-month high as of now. And in light of that, when you see negative news say around Hindalco, which we saw yesterday, the aluminium space is actually very, very interesting because it's making a comeback. Earlier we were only seeing copper prices, but now we are seeing aluminium prices pick up, which is a good sign overall for the commodity cycle.
All right. And what about investors who are, let's say, looking at the overall domestic growth category, where we've seen that now this GST reduction has pretty much translated, but people are assuming that Q3 numbers are going to be much better than Q2 numbers, given this GST cut and the boost in demand that we've seen. How do you rate stocks of, let's say, the auto category or even FMCG for that matter?
So autos, definitely I like. FMCG, while it's good, it's not a sector that I like to delve into simply because in a growth bull market, I don't want to be allocated too much to defensives. They may help during corrective phases, but when the growth really kicks in, it's many other sectors that end up doing better, whether it's energy, power, all the related areas where we've seen growth over the last 3 to 4 years. So wouldn't really want to allocate to FMCG as a defensive. Want to be in the growth segments, but autos definitely are looking good and should do well.
All right. So auto is a yes for Rohit Srivastav, FMCG not so much. And, question I often ask to all our market experts is India's IT sector, because the IT sector has had a terrible last 1 year. Is there any hope for recovery, no matter whether Fed goes ahead, cuts interest rates by another 25 basis points or not, whether Jerome Powell's replacement is more aligned with Donald Trump? Overall, how do you see the US economy picking up and the spending power within corporate America to actually send work back to India, and work that may be relevant for India's IT companies to perform for them?
Yeah, IT is a pretty tricky segment because the margins have been getting squeezed year after year for 2 decades. In fact, I put out a chart on social media showing the ratio of the Nifty 50 to the Nifty IT index, and we are still below the 2000 high. That's for 20 years you've not been able to cross the all-time high on the ratio, which essentially tells you that you have significantly underperformed. There have been periods of performance like post-COVID. For a 2-year period, the IT sector did exceedingly well. But when you take a 10-year period, then you're a non-performer. So the IT sector is lagged behind in that sense. Now, that doesn't mean that if the market picks up or the US economy does well, the IT sector doesn't get demand. But the problem really is not that they're not growing, but they're growing at a slow rate, and the bottom line is growing at an even slower rate because margins keep getting compressed. So that's the reason they tend to underperform the Nifty itself. And it brings me back to the same thing, that it's an avoid. It's not a sector you want to be invested in with a long-term perspective. There could be short-term trades, but long-term you'd want to focus on other growth areas.
So for the short-term trades also, Rohit, would you recommend perhaps the Nifty 50 IT pack, the sort of bellwether blue chip companies, or should investors look beyond the Nifty 50 IT stocks and pick up, let's say, a Persistent or a Coforge, which are down more than 2% in trade this morning? Are those likely to see better growth potential going forward as compared to the Nifty 50 stocks?
So I'm not. They've actually done that. The mid cap IT has outperformed the large cap IT, so that is a fact. But at this point of time, we'd really want to delve into it. I haven't really gone deeper into which of the mid cap IT stocks would do better than the large caps going forward. If we see that momentum build up, we may focus on it. But right now, we are just staying clear of the sector.
Right. Before I let you go, Rohit, there's also this update on Pine Labs IPO, which is opening today. That's almost a 3,900 crore rupee IPO, which opens today for subscription. The street has been abuzz with IPOs, especially from the likes of startups across the board. And this particular Pine Labs offer is going to be open until November 11th. It comprises a fresh issue of as much as more than 2,000 crore rupees and an OFS of 1,820 crore rupees. Price range between 210 to 221, a grey market premium of just about 5% ahead of the listing. We've seen, Rohit, the Lenskart IPO play out. We are seeing the last day of the Grow IPO today. Excellent GMP. Pine Labs not as exciting, especially if you were to look at the grey market. But overall, from an IPO investment strategy, what is your view for our retail investors?
So fintech's a space that has done well on the market. The only problem has been when some of them come out at very high valuations. So I think that's what Lenskart tried to address by, staying within that 10x, market cap to sales ratio. So if you go very high on the market cap to sales, because right now most companies are being valued on their turnover and not the profitability.
Right.
If the market cap to sales is very high, then there is a risk that after it gets listed, it gets beaten down before it goes up. We've seen that in Zomato, Paytm, and other issues. But yeah, if you come up with a good valuation for investors, if it's less than 10x, market cap to sales, it's still within reasonable limits of what the market might, not punish when it gets listed.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think punishment is what people are looking for. People are looking for a payday. But what should the overall strategy on startup IPOs be? Sector revenue numbers, profitability, obviously play a major part in deciding whether you should hold or whether you should sell your stock. But overall, do you think listing day gains on such high valuations is something that should be deployed as a strategy by retail investors?
If valuations are high, the answer is very simply yes.
Okay.
Because we've seen them get beaten later on. So if you get listing day gains, take that profit and then reconsider the stocks after the market has reset itself, over a 6-month period.
Yeah.
You know that, okay, this is a more fairer valuation that the market is giving it, and then you can re-enter.
Okay. So Pine Labs valuation of about 25,000 crore rupees, in your mind, extremely high valuation, or do you think it is pretty much in line with the growth in fintech which is expected?
So I haven't done the numbers, frankly. That's why I put out the valuation metric that, if you look at 10x, market cap to sales as a metric, if you find it fits within that, then it's fine. If it doesn't, if it's too far above that, then I think you need to be careful.
All right, Rohit Srivastava, let's leave it at that for this morning. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your views right here on Morning Brief at 9. We will slip into another short break. A lot more coming up on the other side of the break. You're watching Morning Brief at 9.
भारत सरकार ने सभी देशवासियों के हित में हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस से जीएसटी पूरी तरह से हटाकर जीरो कर दिया है। इससे हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस काफी सस्ता हो गया है। पॉलिसी बाजार पर अब 1 करोड़ का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 550 रुपए महीने से शुरू। policybazaar.com।
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
Being a chef, it's my priority to deliver taste in a plate with good presentation, unique innovation. You need to explore, you need to experiment.
You observe the people, make them happy, make them feel happy, and in the end you are smiling. That's the most important thing.
यही मौका है बिजनेस को बढ़ाने का, पर पैसा।
अपनी सुपर पावर यूज करने का टाइम आ गया है।
अब टेंशन मत लीजिए, IIFL फाइनेंस से झटपट गोल्ड लोन लीजिए और बिजनेस आगे बढ़ाइए।
आपके जैसे सुपर हीरोज ऐसी छोटी मोटी प्रॉब्लम से थोड़ी ना रुकते हैं, इसीलिए लाइफ जब भी आगे बढ़ने का मौका दे तो अपनी सुपर पावर, अपना गोल्ड यूज करिए और IIFL फाइनेंस से गोल्ड लोन लीजिए।
IIFL फाइनेंस करता है सीधी बात।
Welcome back. You're watching News 9. This is Morning Brief at 9. Let's pivot away now to global stories that we're tracking for you. As always, let's begin with the United States. Nancy Pelosi, the first woman to serve as U.S. House Speaker and one of the most influential figures in American politics, announced on Thursday that she will step down at the next election, marking the end of a 4-decade-long career in Congress. The 85-year-old Democrat, often described as a master strategist, steered landmark legislation through deep partisan divides and became a defining rival of President Donald Trump, leading his impeachment twice during his first term and famously tearing up Trump's State of the Union speech on live television in 2020.
I've cherished the privilege of representing our magnificent city in the United States Congress. We can be proud of what we have accomplished, but there's always much more work to be done. That is why I want you, my fellow San Franciscans, to be the first to know. I will not be seeking re-election to Congress.
Meanwhile, President Donald Trump reacted sharply on Pelosi's retirement, calling her an evil woman, reigniting one of Washington's fiercest political rivalries. Listen in.
I think she's an evil woman. I'm glad she's retiring. I think she did the country a great service by retiring. I think she was a tremendous liability for the country. I thought she was an evil woman who did a poor job, who cost the country a lot in damages and in reputation. I thought she was terrible. Thank you very much.
Moving on to stories from corporate America, EV maker Tesla CEO Elon Musk scored a major win on Thursday as shareholders overwhelmingly approved a record-breaking pay package of as much as $878 billion over the next decade. The compensation plan, backed by more than 35% of shareholders, is designed to keep Musk at the helm of at least 7 more years as Tesla expands deeper into artificial intelligence and robotics. If all targets are met, Musk's stake in Tesla could rise from 12% now to more than 25%, further cementing his control of the electric vehicle giant. The Tesla shares rose about 2% in after-hours trading, reflecting investor confidence in Musk's long-term vision for turning the company into an AI-driven tech powerhouse. Tesla was one of the exceptions as US stocks ended sharply lower on Thursday as renewed selling in big tech dragged the markets down. Investors remain wary amid growing economic uncertainty and concerns over stretched valuations following a recent rally. Now, analysts say volatility could persist as the Federal Reserve weighs its next rate move. Take a look.
Wall Street's main indexes tumbled on Thursday, with the Dow dropping more than 0.8%, the S&P 500 shedding over 1%, and the Nasdaq losing nearly 2%. A resumption of Tuesday's tech sell-off weighed on the Nasdaq as investors worried about inflated AI-related stock prices. Michael Landsberg, Chief Investment Officer at Landsberg Bennett Private Wealth Management, said that while tech earnings were mostly strong, forward guidance from some AI darlings may have underwhelmed investors.
I think a lot of the tech earnings, basically, everyone's expecting a beat and a raise. So what you're seeing is you see the beats, but if they're not aggressively raising, I think that's where some of the stocks are getting kind of beaten up because valuations are so, priced to perfection, if you will. So I think you're seeing that.
The Philadelphia SE Semiconductor Index dropped nearly 2.5%, with NVIDIA and Qualcomm losing more than 3.5% and AMD plunging over 7%. Among other movers, shares of DoorDash slumped 17.5% after the delivery firm reported third-quarter profit below Wall Street expectations on rising expenses. Shares of e.l.f. Beauty plummeted 35%, after the cosmetics maker forecast annual sales and profit below expectations. On the flip side, shares of Snap jumped more than 9.5% after the social media firm beat third-quarter revenue estimates and announced a partnership with software company Perplexity AI.
An American fast food chain, McDonald's, posted stronger than expected third-quarter global sales on Wednesday, driven by its affordable meal offerings that kept customers coming in despite tight consumer budgets. The company said its everyday value menu has boosted traffic even in markets facing inflation pressure. More details in this next report.
Shares of McDonald's rose Wednesday after the fast food giant beat third-quarter global sales estimates thanks to affordable meal offers that lured budget-conscious consumers. McDonald's has kept its $5 meal deal in place for more than a year, prioritized menu innovation, and intensified marketing efforts to revive demand. Executives at the fast food chain pointed to high prices of essentials such as rent, food, and childcare as weighing on low-income consumers. To counter those pressures, McDonald's in September reintroduced its extra value meals and began working with franchisees to standardize a 15% discount on combo meals nationwide, up from the current 10 to 11%. Comparable sales in the U.S., McDonald's largest market, rose nearly 2.5% in the third quarter, compared with a 0.3% rise a year earlier. The company expects early momentum from another promotion, one tied to the iconic Monopoly game, to further accelerate U.S. sales growth in the fourth quarter.
All right, Prime Minister Modi is right now at the Indira Gandhi Indoor Stadium in New Delhi. Live visuals are coming in. Remember, Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate the year-long commemoration of the national song Vande Mataram. He arrived just a few minutes ago and is expected to speak anytime soon. Now, remember, the program will mark the formal launch of the year-long nationwide commemoration from November 7th, that's today, 2025 to November 7th of next year, 2026, celebrating 150 years of timeless composition by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. The composition inspired India's freedom movement and continues to evoke national pride and unity. According to a statement released by the Prime Minister's office, Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate the year-long commemoration of the national song, Vande Mataram. He will also release a commemorative stamp and coin on this occasion. To quote the release, the celebrations will witness mass singing of the full version of Vande Mataram at around 9:50 a.m. That's just a few minutes from now, across public places with participation of citizens across all segments of society. in conjunction with the main program. This as per the statement released by PMO. Remember, politics over Congress truncating the longer version of Vande Mataram into a shorter version has been creating political differences and ended up becoming a row in yesterday's sessions. Now, this also happens, of course, right in the middle of Bihar elections, which are on right now. And let's see how this story pans out from here. But right now, there are expected to be celebrations which are going to witness the mass singing of, remember, the full version, not the truncated one, but the full version of Vande Mataram in just a few minutes from now. And this version is going to be sung across a lot of public places, and participation of citizens across multiple segments of society is expected in big numbers. So these are live visuals that we are getting to you, with Prime Minister actually visiting those, those artifacts and memorabilia from history at the Indira Gandhi Indoor Stadium right here in New Delhi. Remember, this is the formal launch of the year-long nationwide commemoration, which starts today, November 7th, 2025, until this entire next year, until November 7th of 2026. This is, remember, the celebration of 150 years of the timeless composition by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Remember, this composition had inspired India's freedom movement. It continues to evoke national pride and unity, but there are charges that the version was truncated by the Congress party. According to the statement which has been released by the PMO, Prime Minister Modi is going to inaugurate the year-long commemoration of the Vande Mataram national song today. As we told you, he will also release a commemorative stamp and a coin on the occasion of celebrating 150 years of Vande Mataram. Live visuals coming to you, Prime Minister visiting, inspecting that memorabilia. This is the live feed of the Vande Mataram. Remember, where Prime Minister Modi is already at the inauguration ceremony of the one-year commemoration of Vande Mataram. Remember, Prime Minister Modi has already spent a few minutes. He is walking around in those aisles of the Indira Gandhi Indoor Stadium. That seems to be a record player, a heritage music artifact, and that's an LP, a long play version of potentially Vande Mataram. Could be the original composition, the long version, which Prime Minister is expected to participate in the singing of. Inspecting the digitization potentially of that original record and the rest of the functions as they ensue. This seems to be the original record. Yeah, there you have it. That's the needle that goes onto that long play LP record, the vinyl, which potentially has the original version of Vande Mataram. Remember, this program will mark the formal launch of a one-year-long campaign, which is going to be a nationwide celebration and commemoration starting today until November 7th of next year, as India celebrates 150 years of Vande Mataram, composed by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Remember, the song, the Vande Mataram song, has been instrumental in India's freedom fight, India's freedom movement, and served as an inspiration for freedom fighters as they have marched along the streets of the country fighting for India's independence. And even to this day, it's not just sung in schools across the country, but also evokes national pride and unity among citizens of the country. Remember, we've told you this is going to be a year-long commemoration, and Prime Minister Modi is also likely to participate not just in the singing of the complete version of Vande Mataram, but also release a commemorative stamp as well as a commemorative coin on this occasion. And we will, of course, continue bringing you those live visuals as well as all the action from Indira Gandhi Indoor Stadium, as Prime Minister Modi is expected to make an address shortly and also participate in the singing of the complete version of Vande Mataram. But for now, we'll slip into a short break and come back with more updated visuals on that story. Thanks so much for watching.
This is India's #1 news network and you're watching News 9 English News.
Excuse me, आपने भारत कनेक्ट का नाम सुना है? कोई जॉब वेबसाइट है? वैकेंसी है? जॉब्स नहीं, वो 700 से ज्यादा एप्स पे बिल पेमेंट्स पॉसिबल बनाते हैं। वाओ! आप हमें जानते नहीं पर मानते जरूर हैं। हम हैं भारत कनेक्ट।